There we are. Okay, I'm going to start the music and you're going to dance with me a little bit, Brad. Here we go. Let me make sure the volume is up. Here we go. Can you hear it?
Yep.
Okay.
So you wanna be
So you want to be
a
a
cool
cool, my latest cool dude. He's going anonymously as Brad B today. He's Borkin. We'll say that once on the show. That is Serge Hoffman, formerly SAP, singing my song. Those are my lyrics. Here we go. Wait for the drum roll. Bop, 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 bop. Thank you very much to Serge. I'm Bonnie D, and we are here on We Dish TOO. That means over the top. I'm the Saucy Dame, and my very special guest is cool dude Brad B. As I said, his name is Borkin, Borkan. He's an author. You're going to find out all about him. And Brad and I have known each other at least, what, 15 years, Brad? How far back do we go?
Uh, Definitely 15, maybe 16 years. Yes.
16 years. Okay, well, he's a researcher, so we have to be very, very accurate. Brad and I both worked for SAP, the big Germany-based business software company, solution company, I should say, for years and years and years. And we did some technology radio shows together. He was one of my sponsors, and we've stayed in touch over the years. And Brad left the U.S. and he flew the coop across the pond, and he's in London, and I've been trying to move there for years, and we'll have to talk about that. So, Brad, I'm delighted to have you here. It took a while to convince you that you're a cool dude, and I've been spending a lot of time convincing you. Are you convinced that you're cool, or do we have to explore that on the show today?
We'll have to explore that. I'm not convinced I am, but we'll see.
Okay. I think you're one of the coolest dudes I know, and we're going to find out why. I would like to read my opening, and it's dedicated to you. I hope you enjoy it. And then if I left anything out of this bio, you will fill us in, and then we'll go to your cool dude song. So here we go. You know us well, Bonnie D and Brad B too, seasoned in life, and we love what we do. From LinkedIn's halls in social's embrace, we love sharing insights in our savvy people space. Now on We Dish, we're here to play, lightening up life in our uniquely fresh way. Welcoming Brad B, a cool dude I'm proud to call my friend. I'm crying. Here's my rhyming intro, then more details he may lend. The story of Brad B, a life of decision curiosity. When Bonnie D speaks with Brad, she appreciates his precocity. That's a real word and it rhymes. Here we go. From Princeton's charm, where knowledge thrives, Brad B, the boy, found adventure in old explorers' lives. Scott and Shackleton called from the library's glow. As his mother worked, Brad let his mind grow. With loving parents and brothers dear, music enthralled Brad through notes that weren't clear. Too young for Woodstock, yet concerts grand. Bangladesh, Lenin, a rock fan stand. At Penn, Brad's love for math took flight. Then London called, Brad, 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 Imperial's light. You're smiling, a first-time trip, a world so wide. Museums, music, his world views amplified. At the Marquee Club, where legends played, he watched as Bowie's stardom swayed. Yet numbers called Brad's path was set. Decision sciences, here he went, no regret. He studied choices, risk, and fear. Floods and quakes, their toll made clear. Brad's quest to write, a scholar's stride, a turning point, a future opened wide. Boston bound, then Britain's call, a tech world climb. Brad had seen it all. Miles amassed, first-class delight, yet hostile stays kept his expenses light. A 6-month trip, a love's farewell, but Wanderlust still cast its wonderful spell. Back to the UK, life took hold, a career well built, a love untold. Then Anne appeared. His heart stood still. 3 decades strong, a home fulfilled. Their daughter works in TV's embrace, bringing her skill in a famous place. To Antarctica twice with its icy grace, Brad saw decision-making in the frozen space. His book won awards, a Hollywood night, Sigourney's World, his book's delight. Now book 5 is on the way, and in 2026, Brad will again sail away. He's joining me here today with his wit and grace. On We Dish, Two Saucy Dame and Cool Dude, welcoming Brad to my space. How'd you like it?
Wow, that's pretty amazing. That is a pretty good summary of my life. I think it's
Let me finish the end and then
good
we'll
and
then
bad.
we'll talk. We're here on We Dish, chatting on life score, culture, food, music, and so much more. Join us live or on demand, day or night, and enjoy our dishing with shared delight. Meet us for real in our live streaming glow. Comments are welcome. Just play nice. We know who you are. We know. We Dish, two saucy dame and cool dude two, Bonnie D and Brad B, dishing on life's fun. Pour vous, French for you. Now officially welcome, Brad. I'm glad you liked it. So did I hit all the hot spots there?
I think you did. Yes, that's right. Yeah, all the ups and downs of and of life like anyone else's. That you just go. Some is good, some is bad. It's
It's
you know
life.
it's life.
It's life. You know, it used to be, you may be, I won't say old enough, seasoned enough to remember Tennessee Ernie Ford had a song years ago. Of course, I heard it from the womb. 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. And
Mhm.
you worked one job, right? You stayed in one company. You did one thing. And today, how often do people jump ship and start new businesses and become their own bosses? What do you think? It's a whole new idea of work, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, my dad's basically spent his whole career at RCA. Growing up in Princeton, you either worked for the university, you worked for ETS, the testing service for
Hmm.
SATs, or you worked for RCA. That was it, basically. And he worked at RCA for 30, 40 years or something.
And it was frowned upon, probably when you and I were young, it was frowned upon to change jobs too often. It's like, oh, couldn't you hack it? Oh, did they fire you? Oh. And now I tell sometimes younger people come to me, very young people come and say, what should I do? I have this opportunity. And I say, just stay in one place long enough so that you've learned something, you've contributed something, and then choose carefully where your next step is, but don't hesitate to go. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
Move on.
I never really planned my career, sort of bounced around big software companies, and that was sort of the game plan. So,
Yeah. Now,
but
before we get going with your cool dude music, do you have a book handy you'd like to hold up and show us a couple of covers?
I could do four.
Well, I'd love that. I was hoping you would say so, and we'd love a
Is
sneak
there?
peek at
Okay, we'll see
Pod.
how the camera does with it.
Just
So this
hold
is
it.
the oh, so how does this work?
Just hold. That's it. That's it. Stay right
Oh, there
there.
you go.
Move it to your left a little bit. Nope. There you go. Stop right there.
Oh,
Oh, you completely did. There you go. When your life
oh,
depends,
it's
I
sort of
told you we need a green screen. When your life depends on it, extreme decision making lessons from the Antarctic. You can put that down
right,
so we don't get way
right.
there.
So,
So quickly, what was that about?
so that's about the life and death decisions that the early Antarctic explorers made on the ice. So basically, these people, they all came near death all the time, but they
Mm-hmm.
very rarely ever died. And it's the most amazing, amazing stories of survival in the harshest conditions. And it's just wonderful, wonderful stories of they're all men. Women didn't go down to Antarctica until 1947. So these are stories set in the early 1900s.
Hmm.
And there's just the most amazing stories of camaraderie and partnership and discovery and challenges and decision making and just great fun to tell. And
Very cool. And I know you enjoy telling those stories. You're going to show us some clips from your book. We talked about this before the show, and Brad is going to share some snippets from his book instead of the usual, like the wacky stories. I call them, Brad, it's called Say What? Stories people might not know about or might not have, passed over them or nobody told them about them. I'm going to do some of my normal Say What, and you're going to give us some clips from your book, and I'm excited. Book number two. Let's see the cover of
okay.
that.
So book number two, again, these unfortunately we can't the book covers.
Yes,
I
yes,
almost need to
perfect,
turn my should I
perfect.
turn my
Nope, nope, nope. You
background
had it.
off?
You had
Okay,
it. Hold it.
there we
Right
go.
there. Audacious goals, remarkable results. Beautiful explorer, engineer, and what's the third one?
And a statesman. How
Statesman.
how an explorer, an engineer, and a statesman shaped our modern world. And it's about three people. So it's about Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who
Okay.
Americans don't know. He's the greatest engineer who ever lived. And he built tunnels and ships and railways and just amazing, amazing British engineer. It's about Teddy Roosevelt, who's a statesman
Hmm.
who built the Panama Canal and the national parks. The Panama Canal's in the news a lot today. now because of American politics, but
Yep.
the building of it is a phenomenal story.
Hmm.
And the third person is Roald Amundsen, who was an explorer first through the Northwest Passage and first to the South Pole. And it's these three people who did these incredible, incredible things. And we're comparing them and looking at them as human beings and them as they're imperfect. They're all imperfect, but they're all epic achievers. And that's at one level almost my favorite book. My co-author and I were talking about this yesterday. It's just
You want to name your co-author so people know?
David Herzl is a historian,
Okay.
and David and I, there's a lot of original thought in this. Although there's the history of these people and there are things they did, it's the combination of how they each tackled things and the conclusions that we draw for modern life, for modern, how do we solve the big modern challenges of pollution and climate change, and the answer we believe is in the book. It's so.
And what I'm interested in, even above what they did, is how they have created a legacy that has lasted so that researchers like you and David would find them, would write about them. Today, legacy is a whole different thing. Is it 10 minutes long? Is it two viral videos long? I'm not belittling anything, but legacy is very different today, how we value social impact, shall we say, or cultural impact. I'm not going to get philosophical. Let's see your third book
Okay.
cover, Brad.
Okay. Yeah. The third book. This is one of the most fun books. Uh, so this is
Yeah,
it
it takes
takes
two or
it
three.
takes two or three. What you can't see in the bottom part, it says the superpower.
You can
I'm going
turn
to
off
do this.
if you want to, just for a
Let me
second.
just
You
turn
want
off my
turn off your
background for a
background.
minute.
Yeah,
It's
that'll be
probably a good
fine.
idea. So let's see
Yeah,
if I
I'll
can
put you
figure
on
out.
full speaker view so people can see the
Um,
book cover.
so um,
Go in Zoom on settings.
okay, there we
There you
go.
go. Okay,
Oh,
we
is
still
that
can't.
better?
Yes, that's better right there. Hold it. Nope,
Oh,
it's
hang
all
on.
blurred. Yeah, we
Let
we
me.
got it. We got it.
Okay. So okay. Oh, so there we go. Okay. Without my background on
Perfect,
and my
perfect.
messy
The
desk.
superpower of small teams from Hollywood to the moon and everything. That is a phenomenal, phenomenal cover and title. Really cool. Really
Thank you.
cool.
So basically, David and I'll put back let me see if I can figure out how to get the background back.
You have one
Oh, we
more
have to
cover
have
to
one more
show us?
book.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we'll
So
stay
leave it
with it.
off. That's fine.
Okay.
See how cool you are?
That's a third. That's the fourth book.
Dynamic alignment. Now there's no dash after a line before mint. How did you decide to do that? I'm intrigued.
So we just want a this is with a different co-author, Holly Wharton. And Holly and I decided we want a very, very bold in your face book. It's a self-help book
No
about finding your
kidding.
purpose.
And I'm trying to read, let's see now. It says
Oh,
the power of
and
knowing your purpose, achieving your goals.
right.
Very
And
cool. And
Holly
living,
runs Holly
what's the
runs
bottom?
ultra marathons.
Oh, cool.
But if you met her, you wouldn't say, "Oh, she looks like an athlete." I mean, she's just a
You
regular.
introduced me to Holly years ago, didn't you? Wasn't
Yes,
she?
I think
She
I
was
did.
on one of
Yes,
my radio shows. She and her
I think she
husband
was.
trained for marathons. Yes, I
Yes,
remember
that's
Holly.
right.
Yes.
Yes, and basically we're both very energized people, just like yourself. I mean, people who get
Hmm,
out of bed in the morning and go like, "Wow, I'm excited about the day." And we thought, how do we bottle this into a book and say, "This is how you become excited about your
interesting.
day."
Interesting.
And that was
Can you get me Holly for a Two Saucy Dames show? I would love
sure.
to. Love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she'd love to
yeah.
be.
Get her to me.
Yeah,
You can put your
yeah.
background back on so we match.
Okay.
And by
Okay.
the
So
way,
let's.
happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And we're getting
Okay.
Brad. That's all right. You turned your camera off.
Uh,
Go back
right
to your settings. Go back to and select your settings
there
in
we
your
go.
beautiful. Oh, you are my
Great.
hero. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Brad,
Happy
I
Valentine's
love
Day.
seeing you. I didn't real thank you. I didn't realize your covers were so dynamic. I knew the first book, I'd seen the others, but I hadn't seen them held up by a human
Okay.
being. And really well done. I'm trying to compliment you here. I'm falling all over my
Uh,
words. Really well done. The alignment, it's in your face, and the two and the or three underneath.
great.
It's it's
Great.
it's it's laughing. It's
Thank you. Yes. No,
it's
they're
very well done.
Thank you. We take a lot of care in
Yeah.
the books and really try to produce quality products, and they're very, very all highly professionally edited. and it's especially having two authors that you need a
Yeah. Oh,
fantastic
yeah.
editor to make it sound like one
Yes.
person's written it. The book about small teams, the yellow one, It Takes Two or Three, is basically the idea that everyone talks about teamwork,
Mm-hmm.
but we're the examples. We're the examples of small teams that have done really well. And what we
Mm-hmm.
found was they're all over the place. They're in our face all the time, but we rarely ever think about them as being like, oh, we're the examples of small teams. Well, everything from Lennon and McCartney to Mick Jagger and um, whoever is
Keith Richard.
Keith Richards. That's it.
Yep.
And so it's all through music. It's through
Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers.
right, Woodward and Bernstein.
Yes.
It's so in investigative journalism.
Yep.
It's in the Wright brothers. It's in
Yes.
Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, who championed women's rights in the
Mm-hmm.
1800s. Were a partnership for 50 years, championing women's rights in the early 1800s, mid 1800s, and all the way to the Apollo astronauts. When you think
Mm-hmm.
about Apollo 13 and they're getting into trouble and the spacecraft, and you've got these three guys and they've got to work as a unit.
And
And
look
the
at the
only
two who are stranded in space right now. The
well,
man
precisely.
who may
Yeah.
be coming
Yeah.
back next month, a couple of
Yeah.
weeks early. Yeah,
And
that's a
and
team.
yeah, and Hillary and Tenzing climbing Everest as a
Yep.
team, which is a very interesting team. And all these different small teams, Gilbert and Sullivan,
Oh, yeah,
Rogers and Hammerstein.
absolutely.
Uh, and if you remember Christo, do you remember the artist named Christo who'd wrapped buildings
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
yeah.
his wife Jean Claude
Okay.
and their partnership and how they worked to do these
Interesting.
amazing things. They did the gates and
You know
you
something, Brett?
remember the
When
orange
I
gates
Yeah,
in
I
Central
remember
Park?
the big wrappings, the huge pieces of
Yes, yes.
fabric that are beyond imagination how they ever produced anything that big. And in Central Park, and people would walk by the installation. It's interesting. If you analyze how they became partners, I was going to say that on this show, on my other, I still call them radio, on my other shows, I call them live streams. I don't call them podcasts because I don't pre-record them. It's interesting to me how I ask people for their origin story bio, not just your CV. You know, this is my job, this is my title. I have a team of 25,000 people who report to me and they love me and blah blah blah. That's not what I'm looking for. And I ask, what are your early influences? What or who inspired you? People rarely say who that person was who was a team with them, whether it was a partnership with a parent. You know, my mom helped me with my homework. We were a team. Or my dad was a researcher and I went to his office and we found out who built the Alamo. I'm making this up, Brad, but very rarely do people name that other who was that partner or who is that partner. And that might be something I tweak in the request for an origin story. I'm looking for the muse. I'm looking for the inspiration. I want to know, why did you become an architect? Was your dad an architect? Was the man next door an architect? Was your teacher's nephew an architect or niece an architect? What was the influence that led you there? And very rarely are people naming that. And to me, that's a way of an informal team. Wouldn't it be an inspiration in a way?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I took a
And they're all,
long time to get there, but I
yeah.
got to the
Yeah,
point.
and so we're going through all sorts of different types of teams, and that's why the subtitle is "From Hollywood to the Moon"
Love it.
and everything in between, because there literally are teams everywhere. Penn and Teller,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and they're in Hollywood. And you think about
Yep.
teams as being not just real teams like the Wright brothers, but fictional teams like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Watson. Yep.
Tom and Jerry. If growing up when we were growing up,
Yeah.
Tom,
Yep.
Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble. It's like you
Yep.
have these team. How do we learn about teamwork? We learn them from our childhood, like Bert and Ernie.
Yep.
And Bert and Ernie weren't going to be part of, they had a very minor thing in the first pilot of Sesame Street. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone loved them so much that they brought them as more main characters. So it's interesting that Thelma and Louise was
Yep.
the big breakthrough movies of the era,
Yep.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Yep.
um,
I get
was a
accused of that
team.
all the time. People ask me, "How's Clyde?" It's like, shut up.
Great. Yes,
Interesting.
exactly.
Can
So
you send me an ebook? I would love to read the team's
sure,
book. You might have,
sure.
but I have a list of books to read
Okay.
from my
Yes.
guests. I would love to. That fascinates me, and I may start asking that on this show. If you have somebody in a team, who would you want to be a partner with in a team to do something exciting in life? That'll be a new question.
That's
Brad, we want to know. Now, you're not fighting me on being a cool dude anymore, are you? You know how cool you are? You
okay.
say I accept. Come on, say
I
I accept.
accept. Okay. I
Oh
guess
my
you're
goodness,
talking me into it.
you're making me work so hard. Okay, let's go to your cool dude music. I told you we were gonna
Okay.
have fun. Let's go to your cool dude music. Give me a couple songs that you and I'm really glad you like the poem. And I have to full disclaimer and transparency. I have a friend, my partner in crime. I don't think it's a crime though. She's my virtual assistant and she's named Sylvia Speed. And we speak in French. And I sent her your bio, you sent me about 50,000 bullets, which I had asked for of your entire life story. And I
Right.
asked Sylvia to put it into some kind of a sequence and add rhymes to it. And Sylvia took about 6 seconds to send me back the core of what I read. And then I went in and compared it to your bio and I made changes and edited it. So Sylvia is my
Okay.
partner. Just we'll leave that
Okay.
alone, but I'll tell you who she really is later. Okay. She's very
Okay. Great.
fast, very smart. Okay. Let's do your songs. What are your cool dude songs?
Okay. So I admit I've got like six or seven of them. So I've
More the
just
merrier.
okay. So the reason, well, just before we get into that, the reason I agreed to do this was when I had just seen A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to my cousin who lives in California, but we both grew up in New Jersey. And he and I had gone to concerts together. And I said to him, I don't think I've ever seen Bob Dylan. Have you seen Bob Dylan? He goes, oh yeah, we were at the concert for Bangladesh, the one that was organized by George Harrison in Madison Square Garden. And Bob Dylan played there. And it's the most phenomenal. It's the most phenomenal concert. And there's a recording of it. There's a two LP
Mm-hmm.
disc, and there's a DVD. There's a video of the whole concert, and had Leon Russell there, and Ringo Starr, and all sorts of different people.
Oh my.
It was, and then I said, well, yeah, but what else did we see? And he said, we saw John Lennon's. I think it was the uh, the fundraiser for Willowbrook
Mm-hmm.
at Madison Square Garden, which was the last major concert that John Lennon ever did, the last major tour concert that he ever did. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I've got some cool stories. So anyway, so my music selections are from this era growing up in where music was a real anthem of our childhood, really, wasn't it? It was
Oh yeah. It told the
so
story. It recorded our history and what we were thinking and feeling and our relationships and our growing up and our teen angst and our get a job, do 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 when we
yeah.
were entering adulthood and our yeah, everything. Go ahead. What are your
Mm.
songs?
So I just chose a variety of things. So I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor.
That's one of
Which,
mine.
which,
That's one of mine
is that
too.
right? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Tambourine Man, of course.
Oh,
Have you
cool.
seen The Complete Unknown?
No, I haven't. I
Oh,
haven't.
you'll love it. But it so takes you back to your youth. And there's this
Mm-hmm.
opening scene where he walks by this guy in New York City. He arrives in New York City and uh, as this sort of impoverished, young, starving guitarist, and there's a guy sitting on the sidewalk playing a tambourine. He walks by. It's just sort of like
Okay.
nice
Hey, Mr.
symbolism.
Tambourine Man, play a
Yeah.
song for me. Okay.
Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac.
Go your own way. Yep.
Um,
And why
and
does that mean to you? Go your own way. Why is that one of your songs? Your cool dude songs?
um,
Is it an anthem for you?
it is, and I focus more on music than words, but in
Mm-hmm.
listening to the words, it's about uh, I think it's a story of this person saying um, you're leaving me in a sense. It's the guy
Okay.
saying that the woman's leaving him,
You can go
and
your own way. Yep.
yeah, she's going her own way, and it's like, and I think there's elements of that in my life, and I think that
Okay.
um,
All right.
uh,
Thank you.
and Dream On with Aerosmith.
Oh my, that was one of the first songs I drummed when I was taking my drum
Yeah.
lessons in 2017 in Durham, North Carolina. And they gave me Dream On. And I was 6 weeks later, I was on stage at Motorco with an adult band from the School of Rock. There were about 12 bands from different age groups that day, and I was drumming for Dream On. And
Yeah.
the instructor, the teacher, the whatever it was, he had a pink and purple mohawk and patterned tights, and it was quite an interesting world for me coming from corporate to go into this music world. And they told me I had to create the ending for the song because it was going to go on for a while, and they wanted me as the drummer. I said, only been playing for 6 weeks, and you want me to design a clue for the three singers and the bass and the two guitars. And they said, yeah, you're running this song. So I went home and listened to the song 100 times, and I came up with it, and it was such an exciting on stage at a concert place. It was like a great big building, Brad, and they had bleacher seats on the sides, and people stood in the middle, and it was mostly parents of the younger students and friends of the adult students. And Dream On, it means a lot
Yeah.
to me. I'm glad you picked
It's
that. Go ahead.
it's fabulous lyrics. Just like sing with me, sing for the year, sing for the
Ah,
laughter, sing for uh
yes, sing
sing for yeah,
for the
sing for the
tears.
laughter. Sing with me if it's just for if it's just for today.
Yeah, lovely song, lovely
Yeah.
song.
It's like
Thank you. Oh, thanks for the memories,
and then respect for Aretha
Aretha.
Franklin, which of course
That's one of
um
mine too.
is it?
That's one of
Okay,
mine.
there you
Yeah.
go.
All I ask for is a little respect. Respect. Isn't that funny? I've never had a cool dude whose songs overlap with mine. And I guess we're talking about life, and we're
Yes.
talking about basically our ability to, as you said, our goals, our plans. Maybe we didn't have goals. Maybe we didn't have plans. We just went with the whim. We went with whatever, wherever the wind was blowing. I'm sure there's a Dylan song for that. My songs are, I have a whole bunch. Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Cyndi Lauper, Groovin' by the Young Rascals, Dancing Queen by ABBA. I've Had the Time of My Life by Bill Medley from Dirty Dancing. But my songs mostly are focused on Donna Summer. I'm assuming you remember the disco era, dear Brad.
Sure.
And I was a dance teacher, and I did exhibition dancing, and I taught a lot of people with my partner, Michael Walker. And yeah, and so Donna Summer was a favorite of mine. And the songs that I identify with is She Works Hard for the Money. And
Mhm.
then one is Hot Stuff, and I've been called that, but I'm not the streetwalker in the song, so don't get any ideas. On the radio, uh, I've been, what, for 20 years now? No More Tears, Enough is Enough. I think that was a duet with Streisand. No More Tears, Enough is Enough. Da, da. Last Dance, I don't dance anymore, but I've had a lot of last dances. I Feel Love, which had that mechanical sound from Giorgio Moroder. I feel love, 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 and the bang, 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 bang. And Heaven Knows, which is from the MacArthur Park Suite. And Michael and I were in a disco Hawaii contest at a place called the Copa. And it wasn't the Copa Cabana in New York. It was the Copa. It was a nightclub in Eugene, Oregon. And we entered, and I've told this story so many times, my viewers probably are tired of it, but I'll tell it to you. We designed our own costumes. We rehearsed for months. I was a programmer analyst at Lane Community College at the time, and I was given access to a classroom in the evenings, one evening a week. And Michael and I would push all the desks aside and we rehearsed there because we didn't have a dance studio to rehearse in. And we bought fabric, and I sewed a beautiful blue, like a shiny blue satin top, spaghetti straps, and a black skirt that was a 365 circle. And it attached at the waist with a big bow, a band. It opened all the way up when I danced, and it spread out into a 360-degree circle of black satin. I think I had fishnet stockings and black high heels with a little strap. You had to have a strap on your shoes or they'd fly off when you were dancing. And Michael's mom sewed him a beautiful flowing sleeve shirt in the same blue fabric, and he wore black pants. He was very thin, very tall kid. We were just kids in our 20s. And we came in from opposite sides of the dance floor. And
Mhm.
they started the music, da 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 da, and we came toward each other, Brad. And then he lifted me over his head, full lift. I was about 98 pounds at the time. He did a spin, Travolta style, right over his head, then a death drop to the floor, spun me around about 6 inches above the floor. He never dropped me, thank God. And then I was on my feet, and then we did our routine, and we came in third in Disco Hawaii.
Wow.
So I'll
Wow.
never forget the song
Fabulous.
Heaven knows just how much. Yes, it was wonderful. We also, interestingly enough, we also entered a 24-hour dance-a-thon for muscular dystrophy to raise money. It was a fundraiser, and I got people to sponsor us. And that was excruciating, dancing for 24 hours with a
Yeah.
couple of 15-minute breaks in a high school gymnasium with no windows and no
Wow.
just the mechanical light. And it was interesting. I donated the money that was given to me as a prize because we did so well. I donated it to Michael for tuition for him to go back to school and get some more classes. So it was an interesting time. Okay, let's move
Right.
on. Too much here.
Right.
We're at ready for OTT off the top, fast and furious. Brad, your creativity superpower. What is it? Do you love it? Not so much? Yes or no? What do you got?
Creativity superpower. So I think this is the ability to look at history and to come up with lessons for modern people. And that's what we do in the books. And that's uh, the ability to think about history as a guidepost for modern day decision making. And it's not that people in the past were perfect decision makers, but it's great fun. It's great fun to look at people like Brunel and Teddy Roosevelt and people and say, well, yeah, they weren't perfect. They're actually very quite far from perfect. Or even the Wright brothers or Hillary and Tenzing climbing Everest. These people, none of them were perfect, but they all are people we can learn from.
And
And
that's your creativity superpower. So,
that's yeah.
so you look at, are you looking for them? Do you come across them? As far as the superpower goes, do you say, that would make a good story for my next book? Or how do you decide? Do you read 100 stories and say, that's what I want? How do you hone in? How do you pick your featured stars
It's
in your books?
a lot of times they reveal themselves as you're doing the research, as you're
Mm,
learning about them, you start realizing like actually uh, this, you know, for example, I mean, a good example is Teddy Roosevelt was someone who was born incredibly wealthy, born into one of the richest families in America
mm-hmm,
and one of the most influential families in America. And he very interested in natural history. And his father is one of the founders of the American Museum of Natural History in New York City.
mm-hmm,
And so he's like in his element, as a young boy, but we all think of him as president, as some of what he did was good, some of what he did wasn't good, but he was also uh, not a tall boy and very quite sickly, had asthma, and got very bullied in school. You think about this guy who's a rough, tough, Rough Rider, like the Rough
mm-hmm.
Riders and
Yep.
the Spanish-American War. And it's like, and yet at the same time, he was had a not easy childhood. And there's lesson in how he coped, how he survived that childhood, and then and became someone who was an extraordinarily tough human being, actually. Did some incredible adventures in Africa and South America and places.
And you know that the teddy bear was named for him because, as the story goes, and I don't know if you've documented this, he was out in the woods on a shoot looking for bears, and they came across a bear, and he said, "I cannot kill that bear." And the story spread far and wide, and then Greif, the German toy maker, made the first stuffed animal soon after, and then people said, and that was in the shape of a giraffe or an elephant. It was actually sold, and then they started making them in the shape of bears. And they said, what are we going to call it? We're going to call it a teddy bear. Teddy bear was named after Theodore Roosevelt. Did you know that?
Yes, it's in the book. Actually,
I figured
yeah,
it probably was.
yeah, the incident was I think took place in Alabama, and he went on a bear shoot, and they couldn't find any
Mm-hmm.
bears, and why there are bears in Alabama because there probably aren't now, but they're anyway, but they're so they found a bear and they tied it to a tree so he could
Mm-hmm.
come in and shoot it. It's like he's like, that's not hunting, that's not sport, that is murder. Yeah,
That's the full story. Oh, I didn't
and
know
that's the
that
full
part.
story. Yeah, so he said he wouldn't shoot it. And that was whether it was in Alabama, I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and see what state. But
I'll
yeah,
find it.
so I was
I
looking at these people
Yeah.
and saying, well, what do you learn from people who often hit adversity? And
Mm-hmm.
one adversity that he hit was well, on speaking of Valentine's Day, I think it was 1884. Both his mother died, who was already ill and expected, but his wife, he's 26 years old, and his wife dies giving birth, and the baby
Oh,
lives, and that's his Valentine's Day.
yes. Yes, I remember that
So
story.
so
Yeah.
and he goes
The
on.
Had to be a tough hombre. So your superpower is finding these stories and bringing them back to life in
back
your
to life. And
writing.
so we can learn from them, be like, well, actually, if he hit that adversity
Yep.
and went on to greater things, if I hit some adversity in my life or someone hits adversity, that isn't that a great lesson? And you see this in Antarctica all the time, people finding crevasses and crevices and people, I live in England, sorry for the accent. That people, they get into dire situations and somehow they get themselves out.
My superpower is finding cool dudes and
Well, you
talking
certainly
people. Go ahead.
you found a lot. I don't still don't think I qualify, but
You're very very much. My superpower is just talking to interesting and smart people and picking people out of my research, my comings and goings with my different shows. I have a radio. I still call it radio. Monday night, read my lips, cool conversations with creatives with akaRadioRed. That's my persona on Monday, and I meet interesting people. I have over 150 guests a year, Brad. And I will just once in a while, there's just they're all good, but I find just a gem, somebody I want to know more about. And a few of those have been invited to come on Cool Dude. And then my main source is my Technology Revolution, The Future of Now show on Wednesdays. And that's where I'm Bonnie D as well. And I've met such fascinating entrepreneurs and tech nerds and geeks like me. I'm a woman, early woman in tech, and those are really cool dudes. And I think are my 21st or 22nd cool dude in just a couple of months. So
yeah.
I'd like to think that's my new superpower. Next, off the top topic.
Okay.
New Year's resolutions. Do you believe in them? Yes or no? If you have any, how long do they last, or don't you bother? Talk to me.
Okay, so I had a friend at university days who said in England because I spent a year over in England. As you said in the poem, I went to Penn, but I spent a year at Imperial College in London, and my university roommate, apartment mate, was said that don't make New Year's resolutions on January 1st. Make them on January 15th because there's a lot of bad karma in the air around January 1st when everyone's breaking them by January 10th or so. And then the karma eases itself. And then you can make your resolutions on the 15th.
Never heard it. So do you make resolutions on the 15th? You do it?
I don't really necessarily make resolutions. I don't think that it's not that I wouldn't, but I just don't think in those terms. I don't,
I call them goals or promises to
yes,
myself, and I
yes.
break most of them anyway. Pretty much do what I feel like at this point in life. Now, cool dude plans for 2025. I'm going to save this for when we do the next two topics
Okay.
because I want to go to coffee or tea, brewed or instant, calf, decaf, homemade, store-bought, Starbucks, latte, espresso, cappuccino, quantity, quality, time of day, how often, cup or mug, any or all the above. What's your favorite
Okay.
drink?
Okay. So this is easy because I don't drink coffee. I've never
Okay.
had a cup of coffee in my life.
What?
And
Say that again?
I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Well, that makes you a cool dude.
Oh, I don't like the smell of it, and
Oh, I love that.
so yeah, so I'm like unique. So I drink tea, and so I've got my penguin mug made by my friends Susan Rose, who makes mugs and
Lovely.
bone,
Always that beautiful.
lovely English bone china,
Oh,
and
nice.
and she was on my Antarctic trip as well. So uh, and um, so tea and different types of tea,
What are your
Irish tea,
favorite
English.
flavors? What do you like? Irish?
Irish tea, English. Irish tea is quite strong,
Yep.
and English breakfast tea. And I go to Fortnum and Mason in London
Mm-hmm.
and get my teas, and which
Okay.
is
Are these loose
snobby.
teas? Loose teas, and you put them in.
Loose tea.
Okay. I had a British, a person of British, authentic British descent, not somebody like you who moved there. Don't take that the wrong way. On one of my shows years ago, and he said, "You Americans, you just use those dusty things called a tea bag." He said, "A proper cup of tea is made with a certain millimeter of bone china, and the water is at exactly a certain temperature. And you put the loose tea into the little tea ball, and you put it in, and you steep it for exactly this number of minutes and seconds, and then you take it out. And you got the perfect cup of tea." So, in honor of that, I've got my Truth Story and Love mug. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, this was
Yeah.
from an agency, an advertising agency that did some work for a company I was where you see my lipstick at the top, and I have one of those dusty tea bags, and I can't have caffeine anymore. This is peppermint. Okay, this is
Okay.
tea proudly. This is peppermint, and I think it's Bigelow. And what I do, Brad, is I will put, I break all the rules, dear. You're going to hate this. I put the mug, clean mug, with filtered water from the fridge into the microwave for about 2 minutes. Then I put the tea bag into the almost boiling water. And then I dunk them, never squeeze the bag because you get that awful tannic acid that's just very bitter and awful tangy. And I dunk the bag and then I take it out. If it's too hot, and I need to drink it right away, I'll put one ice cube in it to bring it down to not lip burning temperature. When I'm done with it, I will fill it up with cold water in the fridge and put it in the fridge and leave it there overnight and refill it once or twice the following day, and it becomes cold tea. No lemon, no sugar, no additives, nothing. I also have bought a variety pack, and I had chamomile vanilla the other day.
Mm.
I know, weird, but it smells beautiful. The scent is amazing. It tastes like chamomile tea. So,
Mhm.
and I tried lemon zinger and it burned my lips, so I'm giving those bags away. So, will you forgive me for not doing authentic British tea?
Right. Sure. Yeah, Fortnum Mason actually does now many different herbal blends as well, and but it's great fun going in there. And
A lot.
the if your listeners have never been there before, it's the people who serve you. The men are wearing t tails. They're wearing
Ties and
uh,
tails, like a
yeah, they're
tux.
wearing like a tuxedo with tails. Yeah, and so it's all very formal and
Very cool.
stuffy, and so it's
Different
fun.
from a
And
cat cafe. We'll leave that one alone. I'm
yeah,
thinking of tails.
yeah,
Okay. Sorry about that. Movies, TV. What's your preference? Drama, fantasy, action, rom-com, musicals, mystery, comedy, sci-fi, thriller, war, action, adventure. I bet you like adventure. Or your favorite actors? You got a couple of favorite actors and actresses? What kinds
sure,
of things do you
sure,
watch,
yeah.
Brad? Go ahead.
It's well a combination of t- typical action stuff that guys watch. So it's like the Die Hard movies and the Fast and Furious and But my favorite movie of all time is Raiders of the Lost Ark, and um, the but I going back to The Complete Unknown, I thought that was a really exceptional movie, really, really good, uh, and but I also am keen on rom-coms. And
You really?
really,
What do
really,
you
I mean,
feel like Bridget Jones' Diary or what do you
I
like?
haven't seen the new Bridget Jones, but I've seen Bridgerton, saw The
I love
Holiday, I saw all the
Bridgerton. I love
various
Bridgerton.
Christmas rom-coms, and
You watch the Hallmark movies, all the Hallmark
some I watched
Christmas?
some of them at Christmas time and stuff. And
I
then
can't believe it. What do you
I
like?
know
What do you
what's
like the best about them? The relationships, or what do you like?
the relationships, the decision making, the well, I read given for the research I'm doing for the books, I'm reading a lot of nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so my escapism is I listen to a lot of audiobooks that are rom-coms because a friend of mine's a rom-com writer, an author friend, and
Mm-hmm.
so she got me into this genre. So I've listened to a lot of audiobooks that are rom-coms. I read for my research a lot of nonfiction,
Mm-hmm.
and then my TV watching and things are, excuse me, quite a mix between things like Night Action and there's a TV show called Castle, which I quite enjoy.
Oh, Castles. That's old.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
Nathan
Yeah.
Fillion and Stana. Can't.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
her
don't
name's
know.
Stana
And then,
something.
but
And
there's
oh, it's available now on Netflix or somewhere. It keeps popping up.
Disney. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
watched it. I watched it week by week. I love the show. I wish they'd bring something like that. But he's in now a
Yeah.
show called Rookie. He's a cop,
I'm
an
sorry.
older cop who is a rookie cop, Nathan
Okay.
Fillion, and he's been starring in that for about 3 years. Go ahead.
There's the one other thing your listeners may not have seen this called Detectorists, the Detectorists.
No,
Which is
don't know
it.
it.
So this was a wonderful British series. I think they made three series of this,
Mm-hmm.
which is about these people go around, but each one's only like 3 episodes long,
Mm-hmm.
and they go around with metal detectors, and
Ooh.
they're going around fields in England. Now, fields in England are filled with all sorts of artifacts that pop
Mm-hmm.
up every now and then. In fact, probably every week, every 2 weeks, there's a find of something in England that is just some of the most amazing stuff gets discovered. And these guys go
Really?
around metal detectors. And it's a very beautiful story of these two guys who are sort of oddballs, and
Talk about a
they're
team.
And yeah, and they just like doing this, and they know a lot of history, and they go around and find all this random junk,
Interesting.
but they're looking for buried treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a beautiful, well written, well scripted, well acted
Can I get it
series.
over here?
You must be able to
Detectors?
find it. Detectorist, like
Detectors.
detector
Like,
is
yeah.
IST.
And my
And
favorite genre is detective shows with quirky women leads, and mostly
okay,
in French and the Nordic series and some Italian series, and with really, really crazy women, or not crazy, but they're not your normal cop. They've been out of the workforce, or they have a different way of seeing, detecting who the bad person or how the crime was committed that nobody else can figure out. And
yeah,
so I like detectors as well, but a different kind. Any other,
right.
and I can't watch movies because I'm alone and I cry too much. So
Oh,
I
sorry.
watch
Okay.
I watch TV shows. But I want to
Okay.
recommend the series Younger to you, which is a wonderful rom-com about the publishing industry. I mentioned that
Okay.
before the show. It's on Netflix
Right.
and it's 7 seasons and I'm up to season
Wow.
4 and it's fascinating. You cannot put it down, I guarantee.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. So I'm in terms um, of actors and actresses. So people like Harrison Ford and Tom Hanks and Eddie Red. Have you seen the Jackal, The Day of the Jackal with Eddie
No,
Redmayne?
no, it was
That's very
recommended to me,
good.
but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very, very good. And so it's interesting is because my daughter, uh, you talked about her in the poem, is she works on quite a famous TV show.
You can name it if you
Um,
want.
well, we won't name it, but
Okay.
she meets all the A-list
Yep.
celebrities, and
I've
she
seen
works
the
with
show.
she works with, and so she's met all these people, and it's
Cool.
and they're all lovely. She said they're either they're all just the most wonderful people, friendly and talkative and engaging with, and she's got briefed them on the show, so it's quite interesting
Hmm.
when uh, where I've never met any A-lister, any ever like, but also Helen Mirren,
Uh-huh.
famous British actress,
Iconic.
and
Wonderful. She's a
Kate
star here.
Winslet, yeah, Kate
Yep.
Winslet,
Yep. Those are big names. Hmm.
and yeah, have you seen the movie Lee Miller? They
No.
call Lee.
No.
Yeah, so Kate Winslet plays it's a true story of a woman photographer in World War II.
Yeah.
And she goes into all these dangerous situations photographing. And she's the
Hmm.
first photographer to end up in the to photograph the concentration camps, the
Oh
liberation of the
dear.
concentration
Yeah.
camps.
Yep.
And it's a interesting story. Of course, Hollywood has edited, made
Of
a
course.
story out of it, but it's
Of
a
course.
good, it's a well done, well acted movie.
Of course.
Emily Blunt is another,
Yep.
um, and she's in Devil Wears Prada and things,
Oh yeah.
The Fall Guy and stuff like.
Have you seen Black Doves yet?
Oh yes, just finished that with Keira
Wonderful.
Knightley. Yeah,
Keira Knightley. She was
yeah, Keira. She was just
wonderful in it. You have to really suspend disbelief in some of those scenes where it's impossible that things had really happened that way. You know, her husband's asleep and she's downstairs foiling this karate chops all over this guy who infiltrated the house, and nobody wakes up. The husband upstairs, the kids, and she's furniture's falling and things are flying and breaking. And she goes upstairs and climbs in bed and he says, "Oh, come to bed, dear," something like that. You have to suspend, but it was a wonderful, and I'm hoping it comes back from season 2. Did you see Slow Horses?
oh yes, we love slow
Oh my,
horses. Yeah, that's fabulous.
oh, what, and dark, so dark. Everything was
The
done at night. It was so hard to
yeah.
see, but I loved it. It took a while to get into that one. I
It's
watched,
fun. Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, see, it's fun being in London because
Yeah.
all those things are filmed in London, and so you're
Yes.
looking at something like oh, I've seen
I
that. I've
I
seen
know
this.
I
So
know where that is.
it's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
there's some really good movies, good TV shows coming out. Yeah, so I like the French shows, Candice Renoir and Alice Nevers. And these women are not called detectives. They're called, well, they're commanders, commissars. They're called judges, investigating
Okay.
judges. That's what the rank is of some of these women. Master crime, there's one. Oh, there's so many, and the women are just really quirky. Some of them are lawyers, some of them are cops, And they just have a way of approaching. Another one you might enjoy is called Murder in ... And it takes place in a different, very scenic French locale in every show. It's been on for years. And Brad,
Wow.
these series go on for 10 or 15 years, the ones I'm
Yeah.
naming. They
Okay.
don't get to US TV streaming, some of them until 10 years later. There's one
Wow.
now called Cassandra, ends up with an E instead of an A, and that's her last name. And she's a detective. It's 10 years old and it just is dropping here now. And I'm seeing a lot of the same actors from other of the French procedurals I've seen from 10 years ago, who I've
Wow.
just seen from 2 or 3 years ago, and say, boy, that's what he looks like without the gray hair and the beard. Isn't that interesting? So if you watch enough of these, you get to see the same actors popping up in different roles on these series, and it's like you're watching Friends. It's like they've become family, and I
Wow.
enjoy that aspect of it. Oh yeah, they're from, and I'm looking them up. Where they were on Tandem's another one. They were on Tandem. That was on Alice DeVers. That was on Candice Renoir. That was on this one. That was on the Sandholm Murders in the Nordic Noir. So just very interesting. Okay, now
Yeah.
plans, cool dude plans before we go to our say what stories.
Okay.
Cool
I
dude
just need to
plans for
turn my
this year.
heater. It's cold. England's
It's
still quite cold, so I
it's
just
cold here
turn
too. It
the
was
heater on.
30 degrees last night here. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
What
So your
what are
question
your
was
plans, cool dude plans, just briefly for this year? What are you planning for
for this year,
2025?
David Hertzl and I are working on a new book that's
Mm-hmm.
coming out in September. And that's the main thing. We're launching the audiobook of It Takes Two or Three, The Superpower of Small Teams. That's the book that was yellow.
Mm-hmm.
That
Love it.
audiobook launches this week.
Yep.
And so that's very exciting because it's not us recording it. It is
Yep.
a guy in California, a voice actor, very
You can
famous.
name him because I know him. You can name
Yeah,
him.
Dennis Kleinman and
Yeah,
Dennis
what a voice.
and Dennis and I end up in Hollywood for
Yes.
for his recording of When Your Life Depends on It,
Yes.
and because we were up for a major award, and
Yes.
it so I'm hoping this book will get there. But if anyone wants to listen to it, there's a sample on if you go onto Audible or you go onto Amazon, you can listen to a sample, and it's like a 5 minute sample of the book
Cool.
of Dennis reading the
Cool.
introduction, and it's
He
just
has a
a
wonderful voice. He was on one of
wonderful
my radio
voice.
shows years ago. I think you introduced him to me
Yes,
and
yeah,
we did something together. So
yeah.
wonderful. And you're traveling in 2026 on another Antarctic expedition?
Going by way of New Zealand. The last two trips have been by way of Argentina. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going to the west side of Antarctica. This time going to the east side of Antarctica. So you got to get there from New Zealand, and you're on a ship for like 3 to 4 weeks, and you go
How
all the way
many
down.
people and how big a ship? These are fancy cruise ships or these working
These
working ships?
they're not fancy, but they're ice strengthened ships, and they're about
Okay.
100 passengers.
Okay.
So they're not big. They're not.
Same people go on
And
the cruises all the time? You meet the same people or different?
um, no, so it's different. But so on my last trip, there were 70 people on the ship,
Hmm.
78 people, and about 50 of us have stayed close friends.
Nice.
And I've been the catalyst for bringing these people together, and I'm just so many interesting people, a bunch of retired doctors, judges, um, people high up in industry, and different political factions as well. I mean, like an editor of one of the major British newspapers that would not be of the same political persuasion as my own.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but they're all really interesting, engaging people, and
Nice.
it's a real
That's great.
leveler for things. And so this trip, a few of us from the previous trip are getting together and going off to New Zealand, and so
Very cool.
it'll
Very
be
cool.
good. Cool,
You got good
cold,
plans.
freezing cold. It's like
Well, I know you probably have all kinds of underpinnings and
yes,
thermal
yes,
and heated, maybe gloves and socks and other things we won't unmentionables. Maybe.
right, yeah, not heated, but just you
Yeah,
are
yep.
well bundled up.
You
Yes.
got to pack well. Okay, let's go to the say what stories. You do one, then I'll do one. Let's take about 2 minutes apiece so we can zip through this. And why don't you do
Okay.
your first one? I'm going to put you on full
Cool.
screen speaker. You have anything to show? You want to
Yeah,
show
let me see if
pictures?
I can share.
Hold on. Let me
Um,
get rid of the sound sharing. Okay, sharing is open.
okay,
Go ahead.
let me see if I can. Oh, okay.
Ready?
Let's see if I can share this. Hang on a second.
Hit share on the
Um,
bottom and your full screen. There you
there we
go.
go. Um,
That's you.
let's see. So can you,
I can see this PowerPoint. Yes, I'm seeing you
okay,
on a ship in the ice. Yep.
great. Okay. So if I like that, okay. So that's
Yeah.
just me and that's me in it,
Yep.
just to prove I've been there.
We
Okay. So
believe you.
I want to tell a story. I've got a few things to tell stories with. So,
Go ahead.
um,
Why don't you do all of yours and then I'll do all of mine because I don't want to break the
okay. I've got,
flow, FLOE of what you're doing.
right. Got three photographs to show you, three elements. Uh, this is, I believe they called this Castle Rock, but I'm not sure. This photograph was, so there's a famous photographer named Henry Ponting, and he's down there on Scott's expedition. This is you're talking about 1910, I think. And he tells one of the guys, "Well, go up to the top of this thing and I'll take your photograph." And this is like several hundred feet up in the air, 100 feet up in the air. And so he takes the photograph, takes several photographs, and he tells the guy, "Okay, I've taken the photograph. You can come down now." The guy turns around and immediately slips down the entire, not the back part of the slide, the front part of the slide, ends up, you know, a foot or inches away from jagged ice at the bottom. He falls, 50 feet, 100, and Ponting thought he was dead. I mean, the guy was like unconscious. But this is like proof these guys were indestructible. They just never, and he eventually comes to, and you know, so that's just they were just indestructible. This is one of the
Cool.
wonderful stories. A lot of people have seen this photograph, but few people know the story that the guy actually fell.
It's a gorgeous photograph, Brad. It's absolutely
It's
beautiful.
fabulous.
Yes.
And
Go to your
so
next
the
one.
next one,
Yeah.
so this was when Shackleton, the famous story of Shackleton's ship getting caught in the ice and it gets crushed. And this is the ship they discovered in 2022,
Hmm.
in that sunken ship that was famous in the
Yeah.
news. And they made the documentary about it. Anyway, I want to tell an interesting story. So that when the ship's breaking up, they can't stay in the ship anymore. They camp out. They're 28 men. They camping out on the ice in tents. And but what's interesting about this was originally the original expedition was to take 10 people and leave them in Antarctica. And a lot
Mm.
of the other people, a lot of the other men you see in this photograph were basically people who worked on the ship. They were the people who um, made the sails go up and down and all the different things that you may need to do the ship. And so they didn't have fur sleeping bags. Only the people who were going to be the expeditioners had fur. So among 28 men, they had 10 fur sleeping bags. In typical British military, you have what are the officers and you have the men. The officers are the high-ranking people. Of course, you'd say, well, in that sort of situation, the officers get better food, they get better accommodation on the ship. And of course, in this case, even when they're camping out on the ice now, they're going to get the better sleeping bags. Shackleton's like, no, that's not the way it's going to work. We're going to draw straws
Mm.
to decide who gets the sleeping bags because it's not fair. Even though the British military would have said, of course, the officers get the sleeping bags. He rigged the drawing, and not one of the officers got a sleeping bag, got a first sleeping bag. And
Quite a guy.
I don't
Quite
know
a
how he
guy.
did. I've tried to find what exactly they did, but he may have just said to the officers, "You just say you didn't get whatever they were drawing, little sticks or stones or whatever." But there was just an amazing awareness that
Mhm.
if all if all the officers took the first sleeping bags, there would be rebellion by the men, by the non-officer men. So it was interesting, this little story.
Very.
And the last one was Frank Hurley. Frank Hurley was the photographer on that expedition with
Mm.
Shackleton, and he took amazing photographs of the men. These are you can see some of the photographs there of Shackleton and Worsley and Crean and Wild, and as well as many other photographs of the expedition. So when the ship was sinking, you remember the picture on the previous one where the ship is literally crushed in the ice, and Hurley, he's taking photographs with a camera that takes glass plate negatives. So they're fragile. They're about the size. They're about 5 inches by 7 inches, and they're fragile glass. I mean, they're thinner than window glass that you'd have on your windows, and so much thinner than that. And he goes back to the ship, and the original thing, I think in his diary, he talks about wading into the water that's at the bottom of the ship to get, freezing water to get the negatives. He uh, talks in, I think in the book that he wrote, he's like wading into the water, chest deep to get these negatives. He goes on the lecture tour, and when he's back in England, and he's talking about how he's diving into the water to get the, and so who knows what's true, whether how much water he was, but it's sort of a funny story that he was, what, was he diving into the water to get it, or was he just wading into the water? Was it chest deep, whatever? But it's like, anyway. But he did rescue all the photographs, all the negative elements were still exist, and they exist in the Royal Geographical Society has the original negatives. And I've seen them. I've seen some of them.
Hmm.
And they're only brought out in very rare instances. So it's
Sure.
quite a privilege to see them.
Thank you. I knew
That's it.
you would have some very interesting say what stories. Yeah. Thank you,
So let me
Brad.
unshare.
Yeah.
Not sure how to unshare.
Let me see. Just go to unshare. Let's see. I don't know if I can
Oh, here we go.
unshare you.
Stop
Yeah.
share. There we
There
go.
you go. Okay. And let me
Okay, we're
straighten the
back.
screen out because we're in a different position now. Let me straighten that.
Okay. So
There
hopefully
we are.
that was
That
interesting.
was
And
absolutely interesting. It was fascinating. Thank you very much. That's why I didn't want you to go through the usual news stories and pick something. I
okay.
have three. Mine are just going to be very kind of compared to yours, but I did pick a couple. Let me just go through these very, very quickly, and I think you will enjoy them. So let me get my screen sharing up here. So we're going to go to screen, first desktop. Here we go. Okay, we don't want to see my calendar. We want to see this. Here we go. So, what is the best time for taking a nap? Interesting question. And there was a research study recently by the Talker Research Industry research team, and it was commissioned by Avocado Green Mattress. I don't know who they are. And they decided that people should aim for a 51-minute nap starting in the afternoon at 1:42 p.m. Can you imagine constructing your nap? Brad, you're making me tired with all your wonderful research. So they say if you go longer than 1 hour and 26 minutes, you enter the danger zone. Napping after 3 p.m. Before 3 p.m. will not interfere with your nighttime sleep schedule. Some people like to have a dark, quiet room. Some people have noise on in the background. Half the people fell asleep with the TV on. A very few percent, small percent, use a white noise machine. And they say that nappers report having a thriving social life. They report satisfaction in life. They report a better love life. And they are more aware of sustainability and impact on the environment. I thought that was interesting. They surveyed 2,000 Americans online between January 23rd and 27th this year. This is fresh research. They look at napping habits, preferences, how they connect to parts of other people's lives, making sure to include Americans from all walks of life. Do you nap, Brad?
No, I don't. No.
You don't.
I've
I
got
used to,
too
and I don't anymore.
I've got way too much energy to do
Yep.
that.
I will
That's
fall asleep sometimes if I'm watching something at night, and if the TV is still going, I will say, "Oh, I remember it was about," and I can go back to where I last remember watching the show,
right.
and that's how I time my nap. And it's very rarely more than about 15 or 20 minutes. And I'll just because I watch streaming, so I just put it back, put the arrow back, go to the part where I remember the show. And okay, now I know how long I was asleep. That's the first one. The second one, and this is in honor of you. Why do Brits spell color with an OU? And apparently, they say when this is Bennett Kleinman is one of my favorite authors. He's a staff writer for the newsletter called Optimism. He's a comedy writer. He loves the New York Yankees and the New Jersey Devils, and he thinks plain seltzer is the best drink ever invented. I should get him for Cool Dude. He says when the U.S. declared independence from England, it was like a bad breakup, blah, 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 blah. The English language developed, as we know, by borrowing words from other languages. The word color was adopted from the French couleur, Couleur, and the British retained what they call seemingly superfluous vowels from the other language as a nod to the real etymology. Before the 18th century, spelling was not standardized. For example, defense Could be either C or S, either way. So along comes Noah Webster. Here's an interesting person for you to look at, Brad. Noah Webster of the dictionary fame was an advocate for standardizing spelling, and he wanted to differentiate American English from English spoken elsewhere. So he simplified the spelling by removing what he thought were extra letters, and he changed them to match the phonetics, the pronunciations. In 1806, he published a compendious dictionary of the English language, which got rid of the U from honor, so it became HONOR, the K from public, which became PUBLIC, and the double L, the second L, from traveled. He also changed CE in defense to SE. And of course, there are exceptions to the rule. The one of them, the most prominent that has remained, is glamour with an OU. Any thoughts on that, Brad, as being adopting the UK as your second country? What do you think?
Wow. No, that's very interesting because David and I write our books in American English.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge is I've lived here for 35 years, and so I write and think in British English. And you wouldn't think that's that different. But when I was visiting America just recently, my brother was saying that I sound and my idioms and the way I speak has more Englishisms in it because
Mm-hmm.
we use words like whilst. Whilst is a
Mm-hmm.
very valuable word because
Yeah.
it's sort of like simultaneous, but it's not quite. And so, and amongst is another word
Amongst,
that's
yes.
very useful. And so when I'm writing and I'm writing the books, I'm writing the chapters, I'm writing and David's writing the chapter, and then we edit each other's chapters. We try to get rid of all my Britishisms from it. And then but we use editors from all over the world. We are primary editors in Ireland. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to go back and sometimes she'll introduce Britishisms, which we got to get rid of. So it's an ongoing process of.
Interesting. Well, I can tell when
So,
I have a lot of Canadian authors on my Monday Read My Lips show. I work with a PR agency based in Canada, and so they send me. They're mostly thriller authors and sci-fi dystopian novels, and I can tell when they're a native Canadian because they'll say my process is. So
right.
that's the one
Yes.
giveaway. I have one more to share, and then we're going to wrap up. And let me do the screen share one more time. And this is a kind of a fluffy story here. There's a reality show called Royal Cam in its 10th year. I don't know if you're aware of this. It stars Northern Royal, talking about Royal, Brad, albatrosses. It's a graceful New Zealand seabird, sorry, with a wingspan of over 10 feet. Looking at this picture, it's hard to believe that their wings go 10 feet. The birds, all their adventures and their lives, they're struggling to raise their chicks. Originally established to raise awareness of the vulnerable species, it's a 24-hour live stream from New Zealand's Department of Conservation. Following the breeding season, the Southern Hemisphere's only mainland colony of albatrosses, which mate for life and live to around 40. I assume that's 40 in human years. Viewers see everything from the mating dances to the couple reunions as the birds go through child rearing, laying an egg, letting the chick spread its wings and take flight. And this year's royal family is RLK, a 12-year-old male, and GLG. I guess they're protecting their identity by only using initials, Brad. Haha. A 14-year-old female. So this is not quite a cougar, but she's older. They previously raised two chicks, and I'm going to make this picture a little big. So this is a live streaming show called The Royal Cam. I don't know where you can find it, but I bet if you Google it. Isn't that charming?
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So we saw albatross in South Georgia. South Georgia is an island, Antarctic island.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, it's not from the New Zealand side, but from the Argentinian side. As you get towards Antarctica, and albatross. Yeah, I saw albatross with 10 feet, 12 foot wingspans, and they're enormous. They're absolutely enormous birds, and it's like um,
Really interesting. Well, Brad,
fascinating.
I'm glad I was able to convince you. It took a couple of months to convince you to be a cool dude. Do you feel cool now? Do you feel any cooler?
I'll maybe a little bit
I
trying to,
can
but
see.
thank you so much for chasing
Oh,
me.
my
It's
pleasure. I can see
great
the
fun.
aura. Listen, you and I have such history. We go so far back from our days at SAP to following up, and I'm very happy that we've maintained our friendship and we text each other from time to time. And sometimes it's interesting commentary on what's going on around the world. I'll just leave that very, very vague there. And I'm just delighted to have you here. I hope you've had a good time. Any closing words on if somebody says, "Oh, I want to grow up to be a cool dude like Brad"? Any idea, anything you want to tell them how to find adventure or how to follow your heart? Any closing philosophy words you want to share before I play the music?
If I was to reveal a bit about the dynamic alignment book that
Mm-hmm.
Holly and I wrote, I'd say what the secret to finding your purpose is it's not about all the things that are unique in your personality, but it's choosing a few and seeing if you can build a career from that. And that's really what I did was looking at I'm interested in Antarctica, I'm interested in decision making, I'm interested in science, I'm interested in politics, I'm interested in many different things, but sort of combining two of those, decision making and Antarctica, was what led to the first book. And I think that concept, which we explain in dynamic alignment, of saying, don't choose everything, but recognize how unique you are as a person, and then choose a few of the things and see if you can weave that into your career. You've done that very much with your
I
radio
have.
and your
I was
personality
just I was just
and
thinking about it.
music. And,
Yeah, I know. I remember many, just to give a really brief overview of many years ago, I was in a really unhappy relationship, and I opened up the New York Times one day, and I was just looking through the reader ads for no particular reason. And these are ads that are one column, so about 2 inches wide by about a half an inch tall. And one just said, "Would you like to do stand-up comedy? Would you like to be on stage telling your story or your jokes?" I have no idea why, but I clipped it out and stuck it in my wallet. And about 2 months later, when I was in therapy twice a week and crying most of the time because this relationship was just really unpleasant, unhappy, and it was nothing terrible about it, it was just not going well. It fell out of my wallet, and I called the number, Brad, and I said, "Hi." And the answer was, "Hi, this is Mary. I'm at the Steve Rosenfeld's American Comedy Institute of Comedy in New York." And I said, "What's this all about? Are you going to write jokes for me?" She said, "Hell no." It didn't exactly how she said it. She said, "We're going to teach you how to write your own jokes." I signed
uh,
up. And a couple
uh,
weeks later, I'm in New York twice a week. I had moved
uh,
back to my house from my so-called fiance's house. Twice a week, I was in New York, and I learned to write jokes. And a month later, I was on stage at Caroline's, and I
well,
was
there you go.
performing comedy. And my family and friends came and took a couple tables, and
Uh,
they paid full freight.
mhm.
And then the next thing you know, people are inviting me to comedy clubs around New York. And then the next thing, I decided I want my own troupe, and a friend and I started a troupe. And we started getting booked into libraries and Borders bookstores. And the next thing you know, somebody told me that there was a TV studio 10 blocks from my house on Long Island. And I went in, I said, "What do you do?" They said, "Sign up. We'll teach you how to produce a TV show." I said, "I want to do comedy." They helped me with an intro. Next thing I had What's So Funny TV. And then I started Chamber Vision for the local Chamber of Commerce and something to talk about. And then
Mhm.
somebody else saw me and they said, "Come and be on my show." And I went on other channels. And then somebody said, "You have a great voice for radio." And they invited me to do shows on WGBB AM 1240. And then I moved to internet radio. And then I got a job as a marketing person for SAP, the business software company. And one day I said to my manager, "Let me start a radio show for SAP." She said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, thought leadership, no selling. Let's do it." And I started Coffee Break with Game Changers on October 5th, 2011. It grew into almost 50 series, and you sponsored two of those series over the years. And it just, Brad, it just kept going and going and going and going.
Well,
And none of it was planned.
that's one of the things about that we talk about in the book Dynamic Alignment, which is
Yeah,
once you discover this, what happens is we have this thing called life magnetism, and you
really.
start attract once you find your sort of purpose, all of a sudden all sorts of doors open. And I don't know, it's not mystical. It's more that I think that
Yeah.
you're attuned to
Ah,
opportunities. So
attuned.
in normal circumstance, you would have dropped that little piece of paper out of your purse or whatever, and you would have ignored it. But here it's like, oh, it's an opportunity. Next time someone says, "Oh, what about this?" It's an opportunity. You see it and you can
Yep.
recognize it as an opportunity. And this whole concept of that as you're getting more dynamically aligned to your desires,
Hmm.
you life sort of has a way of attracting
Oh,
these things. And
isn't
that's
that interesting?
so
What was
yes,
that
the
word?
whole
Magnetism? What was that
yeah,
term you
life
used?
magnetism.
I'm going
And
to have
so
to start
Holly and
using
I, our
that.
next book is going to be life magnetism. And So
I
that
want
concept
Holly for
will,
two Saucy Dames, and I
okay.
started this on a whim because I don't do one-on-one interview shows, Q&As anymore. And one day I said, I know so many interesting people. Let me do this as a dynamic, interactive conversation, not a Q&A where we both share and we both talk. And then after I have three main women, and I did talked about 12 different women, but three who've done 10 episodes each. I did 45
Wow.
episodes of the Saucy Dames within the first
Wow.
3 months, and then I
I've
woke
watched
up
a
one
few of
day.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you. And one day I woke up and I said, "What? I love talking to men. What am I doing?" And so I brainstormed with a friend and I said, "What would you like to be called?" And I came up with Dame, Dude. I said, "Are you going to be upset?" And he said, "No, I think that's really cool." So I took the word cool and
Right.
made cool. And you're I think my 21st or 22nd cool
Right.
dude in just a matter of 2 months.
Wow.
And so I've done what, 40, 45, 55, 65. I've done about 75 of these shows in
Mhm.
just a couple of months. And
Yeah.
that's my passion, talking to
Yeah.
smart people.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, so you really had to cajole me into this.
Well,
The
you're a
number of text
natural.
messages we exchanged, but
You are
thank you
naturally
so much for it.
cool. My pleasure. It was just lovely. I just wanted to get some time with you and to share you with my audiences. And we have been successfully live streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And I will send you the links, Brad, and we'll find out
Okay.
how long we went. I know we're well over an hour, which
Okay.
is great. I'm going to start the
Okay.
music. And by the way, I wrote the lyrics to this song, "So You Want to Be," which was a book I almost wrote and a website that I still own, so you want to be.net. Never did anything with it. GoDaddy loves me. I have a lot of domains. I just keep renewing, and because one day I will. And I think I have an idea for that one. And Serge wrote the music to go with it, and he was SAP in the. He's composed music that's been used by Cirque du Soleil, movie soundtracks. He does music for opera singers, in not in the opera mode, for quartets, for string quartets in France, and for orchestras and bands. And he's my friend, and we've done videos together where my artwork is into a video and we use his music track. We did that for spatial.io, which is a VR site that you don't need a headset for, and it's a lot of fun. So Serge, he is singing, and this is his music and my words. We're going to go out. Brad, don't go away. We'll talk afterwards. Let me play the music, see if you can hear it. Can you hear it? Let's dance again. Come on, cool dudes, dance with me.
So you wanna be
Brad is dancing. I can't believe it. Well, at least he's moving from side to side. I knew I'd make you laugh. My drums are in the other room. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Sending love from Tennessee and London. Here we go. So you want to be. Bop, 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 bop. Bonnie G and Brad B saying bye-bye. Have a great weekend, everybody. And